500 hours. 500 hours. I got some news for you. Within 10 years' time, the current job that you have, that takes 1,700 hours a year, will only take 500 hours. Now, my question for you to ponder today, how will you deal and fill in and enjoy those other 1,200 hours that come available? So let's focus a little bit where those 500 hours come from. What we actually see, these are the countries actually that make the most money per capita, the most wealthiest country. And as you can see, the Netherlands actually tops that line. Now, let's go a little bit back in time. At the beginning of time, when hunter-gatherers in prehistoric times, you had 3 people that worked, actually. They were out hunting, gathering, and they took care of a tribe of 50 people. And those other people, they were mixing work and purpose and taking care of each other. They were painting drawings on rocks, they were taking care of each other, they were getting food, they were preparing skins for clothing, and slowly we developed ourselves to an agriculture society. From agriculture we went to industrial, and industrial revolution changed something significantly. No longer were we paid on what we did, on our output, we were paid per hour. And it continued and working more and more, and you see the increase over time, until the moment electrical appliances entered our household, wash machines, etc., and manufacturing plants and work, ending up in the 1,700 hours a year that we now do here. Now, not only are the wealthiest countries in the world the most productive, or the most productive are the wealthiest, but what we also see that some of the most wealthiest and productions have the shortest working week. And again, the Netherlands is in the top of the chart. Now, to add to that, we're also at the top of the chart of the wealthiest countries with the shortest working weeks that are the happiest. And happiness is here defined in the quality of life, that you have healthcare, relaxed time, purpose. Now, how do you come there? Now, the conclusion seems to be working less hours making more money will make us more happy. But maybe it's because we actually have some more time on our hands, non-working hours, that we do things that make us happy. Just take it in mind for a second. Now, going back to the 1,700 hours. 1,700 hours is the amount of hours in average a year we work here in Western Europe. The United States actually works 1,850, 1,860 hours a year, a little bit more than we do. Now, imagine that smart technologies, and today we already have artificial intelligence around us, and it takes little tasks away. It takes those repetitive, numbing, heavy lifting pieces, and once they are taken away, we only have to concentrate on thinking. Now imagine that in 10 years' time, those repetitive numbing tasks have been taken away for 2/3. You would only end up with 500 hours. And this is going to make a change. That's going to mean that suddenly we need to figure out what are we going to do with the other 1,200. Now, I'm not the only one who comes with that. Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, lives in a country in China that has an informal 72-hour working week, the 996. And yet Jack Ma a few months ago says, I think that AI, artificial intelligence for China, could give us a 12-hour working week. Wow. And he's not the only tech leader. Now, the problem is only that tech leaders are really good in telling us this is going to happen, but they don't tell us how. So that's up to us, to educators, to think about how we're going to retrain the schooling system. It's going to be to government to come with other labor laws. It's going to be to employers to figure out how they're going to get self-readjustment and reinvention training to employ. It's going to go to labor laws and regulation and education. But again, the question is, when you got those 1,200 hours a year available, what are you going to do with it? So the point is, in today's society, we are exposed to the same amount of information in one day than somebody in their whole life in the 17th century. And it is not that we can't deal with the overload, it's what you call the filter failure. It is, we get so much in such a speed time that we can't deal with it. If you are a home nurse, you visit patients, your job is actually not with your patients. 60, 70% of your time is filling in protocols and writing down test results. Wow. So let's take it again. Nobody goes for 4 years to college or to higher education and then specializes 3 years to become a lawyer, an architect, an engineer, or works in a phenomenal hotel to spend 70% of their time to compare two contracts, or to go to 47 spreadsheets to do an invoice reconciliation, or to compare two X-rays, or worse, working in a wonderful hotel behind the front desk, and then 80% of the time of the day getting that wonderful question, what is the Wi-Fi password? I mean, what a waste of talent, right? So you need to realize this is really where intelligent technologies like artificial intelligence comes in. Now, artificial intelligence is already all around us. You have it in your house. The average house in the Netherlands or in Western Europe has around 60 smart devices, from a smart electricity meter to a Siri and Alexa, or a Google Voice, to curtains that close where you snap your fingers, to lights that switch on or switch off when you use your voice, to cameras that follow you in a video conversation, so you don't have to follow the camera, but the camera follows you, to your car that actually will drive on cameras and make sure you don't make an accident yourself, unless you override the car. And the irony is, we use it already a lot. We ask questions to the technology, we make it translate things, we make it convert things, we make it make pictures of our expense receipts, so we don't have to type them in ourselves and allocate them to our trip. All wonderful, but let's be fair. Artificial intelligence today isn't that sci-fi stuff. We have great expectations, but most AI today only does very simple things. Does one job, takes one heavy lifting, annoying, repetitive, numbing task away, and does it really well. Let's take the Roomba vacuum cleaner. You know that Roomba, that the one that's on the picture? It does one thing really well. It figures out how your room looks like, and then it vacuums it. Now, what it can't do is bring you your coffee when you need it. And what it certainly can't do when your cat throws up a hairball is vacuum it. It will nicely rub it into your carpet. Great job, but that's it. So we need to realize, right, that AI in a nutshell today takes one task away, but it's mostly an annoying, repetitive, numbing task. Huh? So, because it's World Animal Day today, I'd like to move a little bit on to a really cool example. Let's talk about vets, animal doctors, and pets. The point is, if you today work in an animal practice as a receptionist or assistant, you spend 70–80% of the time on the phone or behind a computer, scanning documents, faxing documents still, emailing them, picking up the phone, calling people, making appointments, removing appointments, dealing with emergencies, dealing with refills. And that's not the reason why you wanted to work in an animal practice. You wanted to work with animals, and maybe even with their owners, but not to sit behind a computer. You could have worked everywhere. And then you become an animal doctor, and you spend 3 evenings a week on the telephone to call people, to tell them again what the treatment is, or to ask the questions because it's out of the league for the receptionist, or it's just not her profession, she doesn't know enough, or she's just too busy. But 3 evenings a week, you are still at work as well to answer your or my questions. Wow. So enter VitusVet. VitusVet is an American startup, and I've had the phenomenal pleasure to work with this cool company. They did one simple thing. They reduced 70% of the telephonic workload, the communication workload, the numbing, repetitive jobs from an animal practice. And not just for the people that work there, also for you and me. So this receptionist certainly doesn't have to do a lot of that stuff because they sucked out all the back office records and put them just in an app in my phone. So suddenly, you know, when you have an animal, you have this moment, you come back from the doctor, you have this pile of papers, and the next visit you have no clue where they are. And you have no clue when there's a repeat visit, and you have no clue when they need a refill, and you have no clue when there's shots until you find those papers back. And now suddenly, in an open table kind of fashion, or a fork kind of fashion, you make an appointment, so you don't have to go on the phone. You actually see all the treatments, so when there's an emergency, you have all your data with your animal. I can speak for my animal instead of doing the admin work. And that, you know, that medical doctor, that animal doctor, she gets her life back, or his life back, because they don't have to spend 3 evenings on the phone, because it's just a two-way text, a chat function. So it's not that complex to use artificial intelligence. You focus on one heavy lifting task and take it away. So we're moving to a society that we let the robots do the heavy lifting, and we let the humans do the thinking. This is what they call man and machine. We're not going to replace man by machine. We're going to augment man with machine and basically get the best of us, our creativity, our thinking, our out of the box, and the heavy lifting. So when you go to the fact what's going to change in jobs, 51% of jobs are going to be affected. 51% of tasks, job activities, will be automated. But only 5% of jobs are expected the coming 10 years to totally be vanished. So when you're that medical nurse, that visiting home nurse, right, actually a lot of things can already be done. You do not have to spend 60% of your time filling in forms. I mean, today, already test results can be taken on distance. You can read somebody's blood pressure, their glucose level, their heartbeat, and it can be more than one sample in one moment when the nurse comes by. You can actually take the time available and concentrate on a meaningful dialogue with a patient. You can dictate in your self-driving car or in your Uber actually your observation instead of sitting and typing, making a form, because you can't do that when you drive, right? So imagine that you're that visiting nurse, and you certainly have some time to focus on other treatments or be proactive with patients or actually have lunch with your kid twice a week. You know, that changes things. Now, I hear some of you think like, okay, good. So we can get rid of some more medical professionals and cut some costs. And that's not going to work. Reduction is not going to be a strategy. Because the reality is the future is going to be one hourglass model. We're going to have a lot of retired silver foxes within 10 years' time. We're going to still have a bottom part of kids, and we're going to have a limited amount of professionals available to take care of both. So we need to work smarter, because otherwise it's not going to work. Now, on top of it, what we will see is that everybody who started school in the last 3-4 years, 2/3 of these kids, 65% of kids that started school the last 3-4 years are educated for jobs that don't even exist yet. So I'm not talking about drone operator, artificial intelligence trainer, data storyteller, robot choreographer. Those jobs already exist, man. No, we're talking about jobs that don't exist yet. Now, on top of it, these same people, and actually the current generation that has been born the last 10, 15 years, also has depreciated their social skills. I mean, any parent with a teenager glued to a screen knows how wonderful they communicate. And that's not meant mean. It means that most millennials cannot go to a bar and pick someone up if they haven't been able to swipe left or right anymore. So we literally have lost some quality social skills through digitization, and we live in splendid digital isolation. So we need to work on those skills. Now let's focus on that. 3 kinds of skills we need to invest in as a society, as educators, as parents. 1, we need to reinstate the forgotten skills. This is for the parents here. How many of you have had kids that the last 10 years ask you the question, so how did you do your homework before there was Google? Or worse, kids that came to you and say, hey, page 2 on Google is for losers. I mean, the point is we're taking digital answers for facts now. Look at the whole fake news discussion. How many of us still, when they get a piece of information presented, say, what was the source? How did you come to the answer? Where did it came from? Can I trust this? Is this balanced? So that skill needs to come back, that critical information thinking. Now just think about people like Leonardo da Vinci and all the great thinkers that we had in the Renaissance that set our thinking patterns. They did not just study, they took time to reflect how things work. They were critical on the information offered, and they thought out of the box. Now, that's going to be a really good skill to have, but you still need to make sure that the technology does what you want, and not that you do what the technology wants. So we're going to need supervision skills. We need to supervise the technology. Let me make that very clear. When you're a medical doctor, and you have residents, and you do your round, they take a lot of really annoying stuff away from you, great. But in exchange, you need to actually do something back. You need to supervise them, that they actually know what they're doing, that they give the right answer and correct them when they're not. It's going to be the same with artificial intelligence. We need to spot unintended outcomes and directly correct them. But the most important is, how will machines know what we value, what is important, if we can't even articulate it ourselves? So we need to really build in some governance around the technology, that we stay in charge of the technology and the technology does not rule us. And the last is purposing. By purposing, I mean actually things that you do that you are meaningful for them. Now, it's interesting, when you look at millennials today, most millennials don't own CDs, hey, there's Spotify. Most millennials don't own DVDs, hey, there's Netflix. Most millennials don't have a second house in France because, hey, there's Airbnb. Most don't even have a car or a second car, hey, there's Uber and Greenwheels, why would I? So that sense of ownership also changes your sense of purpose. And what's interesting is the millennial generation today seems to be very focused on making that difference, making that impact. So let's go to difference and impact for a second. Did you know that almost half the people in this country spend an average of 4 hours a month giving freely their time away? That could be taking care of your parents. That could be helping your kid at a soccer club. That could be reading in the morning at school, but it is a purpose-free, volunteer, giving time away, coaching, mentoring, etc., that you give to others. And it feels good. And clearly it makes us one of the happiest countries. So we need to figure out, parents, educators, employers, government, what are you going to do, employers, to anticipate those changes and those skills needed? What are you going to do, educators, starting at the primary school curriculum to bring those skills back? What are we going to do, parents, to not let our kids get away to basically not ask the deeper questions and not giving the wrong example itself by just taking fake information and not checking it? What are we going to do that actually makes us feel good and makes us a community again instead of living in digital isolation? So imagine we all are going to, and the current generation that has been born the last 20 years will definitely live longer than everybody born before. So imagine we live longer and we'll have a longer working life. It will be pretty good if we actually can continuously learn and continuously do our freely time instead of first learn, then work, then retire, then volunteer. So we're going to change things. And if I have a 12-hour work week, a 500-hour job, it's probably still going to be 5 days. But that woman that takes care of my kids in daycare also wants to have the 12-hour work week. So I probably need to spend some more time with my kids. And I probably need to figure out how I combine that and not be that dad that does his email while he's watching his kid playing soccer or not. So let's go back to the conclusion. Prehistoric times, hunter-gatherers, 3 people, gathered, hunted, took care of a community of 50, where the rest of the community was drawing in cave walls, taking care of each other, making food, preparing skins for clothing, and work and purpose and improving were all slowly integrated. We went to an agricultural society, feudal agricultural society, became a merchant class. We then slowly went to industrialization, and in industrialization, we actually started hourly wages. And we made more and more and more working hours until electrical appliances were introduced, and suddenly we used technology to offload some of our stuff, and we had shorter work weeks and shorter working hours. And we're now at this point that we can change, that we as a society can continue what we've been doing and just fill in every technology offload with new work, or redefine work as it is and let technology serve us. Not just in this country, in Western Europe, and certainly in our Western Europe geopolitical situation. But it's not going to go over time, it's going to go in waves, it's going to flow. So there are some jobs that much easier can already make that change. Most of us that are in an educated job aren't even paid by the hour anyway, let's be clear, right? You're paid by your output, not the amount of hours a week that you actually are present or not. So some jobs are candidates for change. Think about working from home. Some jobs could do that easier. Others had actually to be careful to experiment with. So we're going to do it in steps. It's not going to go overnight. But if we don't start, it won't happen. So here we are. We are at crossroads. We have 2 options. Are we going to do the same? Are we going to focus on cost, efficiency, and reduction of the workforce? Are we continue doing the same all over again and consume, and every time technology comes, we just bring another dumb, numbing job that technology can't do in it on our workload? Are we going to let algorithms take over our life? Are we going to let an algorithm decide what I'm going to binge watch this weekend, what I'm going to order on food, who I'm going to date, and who my best partner is, or what news I should consume and what news I should ignore? We have a choice. Are we going to work harder? Or are we going to take this opportunity to give the next generation 1,000 hours a year as a present that they won't work? At least not work in the way we do it today. That they blend their work and their purpose together. Are we going to focus on value, and are we going to make technology do what we want? Are we going to have technology serve us, or are we going to Disney's Wall-E world? Those are the options, basically. Are we going to focus on the skills that we have forgotten, the skills we need to have to supervise technology and to ask how you came to the answer, or are we never going to go beyond page 2 of Google? The choice is ours. The choice is yours. My question to you today to ponder is, what are you going to do with those 1,200 hours? Now, I would know it for me. I would spend more time with my loved ones. I would play some more music. I would travel around and learn from other people, do some more research and combine it with my work altogether if I had that more time. And you know what? I'm the fortunate one that I'm already starting to have that more time because I work with this technology. We create this kind of technology. But the question is for you. If you have 1,200 hours available a year, what will you do with it? Thank you very much.